Hey guys, Dylan from Noble Records coming at you with another video. Wanted to do a real quick video about audiophile recordings. Now, over the past 2 or 3 months, I switched some components in my sound system, kind of tweaked it. Actually, everything's new. I switched everything, I guess. But and I really have been focusing on more of the sound quality of records, and I've just gone down the audiophile rabbit hole. And as I've been watching some videos on YouTube, they use a lot of lingo, a lot of things that a lot of beginners may not understand what they mean. And so I thought I would jump on here and kind of give you an explanation if you're new into it and you're just kind of curious and you wonder what's the big deal, what's it all about. I'm going to give you just a real good breakdown of audiophile records, the pressings, the labels, you know, what to look out for, what to avoid, and then at the end I'm going to try to give you some resources of other channels to follow that might give you some good information about audiophile recordings. Before we get started, if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, that would help me out a ton if you hit that subscribe button. And if you really are feeling saucy, hit the bell next to it that turns on post notifications. Make sure you don't miss any of my future videos. Follow us on Instagram. I have a record store that I own and run in Matthews, North Carolina. It is my life work and my passion. Follow us on Instagram. Would love to stay connected with you. So I know what you're thinking. Audiophiles. That's why I'm listening to records, because I don't want to listen to audiophiles. It's not the same. It's not the same type of audiophile. First things first. When you're looking at audiophile recordings and you're maybe thinking about starting to want to get into that, if you have a kind of a beginner system and you're just wanting to have an extra kick that's going to make your system sound better, it's going to make it pop, audiophile record might help, it might not. You know, when I was starting out, I remember seeing a friend of mine sent me a picture. He's like, hey, look at this you know, this MoFi I just found, and it was something, you know, like this, an original master recording, and he had it, and he was playing it on one of those all-in-one, small little all-in-one tables, and he's like, sounds amazing. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It just there's no way it sounds great. So what I mean by that is, if you have like a real basic system, your sound's only going to be as good as your system is. Now, there's a certain point to where your system, you can hear every little detail. You don't necessarily need a system that's thousands and thousands of dollars, but you need a decent one enough to where you can tell the sound quality. You know, sometimes you'll put on a record and you'll think it sounds great, real thick and juicy, sounds really good, and then you'll throw on another record and you're like, whoa, well, that doesn't sound nearly as good as that one did. You know, I do that all the time. I have a shop and we have a turntable in there, and we have a pretty good sound system that runs throughout the entire shop, but because it's such a big space, you don't hear it like you would in a home setup. But lots of times we'll throw on one record and then throw another one afterwards. You're like, whoa, what the heck was that? This one wasn't mastered well, or it's definitely mastered from digital, or whatever. And so you need to make sure that, first of all, that your system can really reap the full benefits of a nice audiophile recording. Like when I first started out, I had an all-in-one combo thing. You know, this was 15 years ago, and I was just kind of getting going with records again. I was starting to collect my records again, and I had this for a very short period of time, and I was very unhappy because it wouldn't go up very loud, and it didn't sound any better than a CD, obviously, because it was just a rinky-dink little record player. And then as I moved up, I got a Technics turntable, and I got like a realistic receiver and some Technics speakers, and then I was always changing my setup, trying to upgrade until now I've got a Basis 2001 turntable, Macintosh MA 6500 receiver, Macintosh 275, a tube amp, and some Klipsch horns. I feel like this is probably the system I'm going to have for the rest of my life. I love it so much. I really hear such detail with this stuff. But you don't have to have a huge fancy setup. You know, even when I had a, you know, pretty cheap turntable, you know, maybe under $500 turntable, I had a decent like Marantz, like a newer model Marantz receiver. I can't remember the model number, and I had some newer Klipsch you know, tower speakers. I think all in I was under $1,000 on this sound system that I had, and I could definitely tell the difference between audiophile recordings or not. So for you to collect audiophile recordings, I mean, obviously you can collect them however you want, but for you to fully get the benefit of an audiophile record, you need to make sure that your system is good enough to where you can tell a difference. You know if you can tell a difference or not. If you can't, then whatever, no big deal. But that is going to be the deciding factor. What I mean is, if you have a system and it doesn't sound very good, no matter what you put on, buying an audiophile record is not going to, it's not going to be an extra jump for you. It's probably the equipment that's holding you back at that point. So, know your system. Audiophile records play differently on different people's systems. Some people like certain types, other people like other types. You kind of have to do a little bit of trial and error to see what is really good for your system and what you like to hear. So your ears are unique to you and your system's unique to you. So you play what's best for you and your system and your ears. So I'm going to start off talking about some labels, some of the more popular labels that are still in print, all that stuff. And then I'm going to go into some of the processes behind it. You'll hear things like 45 RPM, half-speed mastering, things like that. And I'll kind of go into that and explain that just a little, because if you've never had it explained to you, you probably have no idea what we're talking about here. So, first and most common one, like I said, is Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab. You will know them by their strip on top. They have that on all of their releases that I've ever seen. That on top. I've got a ton of them here. I collect them. I've collected them for many, many years. I have a ton. I have all the Bob Dylans. This is a Bob Marley, I Catch a Fire. This is a super rare one. Tough to get. That made them in the 90s. But anyways, and then they do those, and then they do these. You may have seen these. These are Ultra Disc 1-steps. They're kind of a box set. These are starting to get real popular, so we'll talk about those as well. But Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab started. They weren't the first audiophile label, but they were very early. Started in the late 70s. Started doing like field recordings and like recordings of train noises and all that stuff, and then they started getting into music, and then eventually more popular music. And so, like that Grateful Dead I was showing you, this one here. This was like probably I think early 80s, 83, something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but to where they did like the 33 RPM. Down the line, they started doing like the 2LP, 45 RPM, so we'll get into that. But great label. I will say they have changed some of their processes up a few times in the past. So some eras and some years people really like, and some eras people really don't like. So you don't have to think what everybody else thinks. You can have your own opinion. So I'll say do some research and experimentation and see which ones you really like for you and your system. So they just recently, the past maybe 5 years, started doing these the Ultra Disc 1-steps. Now these are incredible sounding records. Some of the most incredible sounding records I've ever heard. Like a regular Mo-Fi, we call them Mo-Fis. All this, that's the record lingo. But the, Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs or Original Master Recordings, most of them when they come out, they're around $50. Usually, like these double LP, 45 RPM. This is what you regularly get. I think these are actually out of print, but you get the drift. What I'm saying. Those are about $50. Now these, when they come out, are $125, I believe. I think that's still the price point on these. When they first came out with them, like this one, it was one of the earlier ones, the second or third one. I think it's the second one. They did 3,000 copies. Now they're doing 5, 7, 10,000 copies, and so they're not quite as rare. These have shot up in value because they were so limited and they sound so good. And I'll kind of talk about the aftermarket in a little bit as well. So these sound incredible, and they have a different method to where there's less steps in the process to do the Ultra Disc 1-step treatment. So like in a traditional 3-step process, you have the source material, which is your original master tape, and then you cut that onto a lacquer. The lacquer is what the record cutter cuts to where you could actually listen to a lacquer. But then they have to make copies of that lacquer so they can make copies of the record. So then they imprint that lacquer onto a father, which is negative. You take that father and then you could imprint that on a mother, which is positive, which you could play that as well. And so then you take that mother and then you imprint that on a stamper. The stamper is what stamps the record. The stamper is, again, another negative. So that's what you put that plastic in the middle and it stamps it, okay? And then that stamper goes to the positive, which is your end result record. Now with the Ultra Disc 1 step, it's original master recording into a lacquer, onto the convert, onto the record. So it's less steps, so there's less lost in the transfer between so many steps. And there's a pure form of super vinyl that they use. All that creates, like, the vinyl's quieter, the sound quality's better, and it's on 45 RPM. Now, you may think, hey, I listen to mine on 33 RPM like everybody else. And so here's the deal with a 45 RPM record. A lot of audiophile recordings are 45 RPM. Some people don't like that because you have to flip the record more often. So basically, instead of having 5 or 6 or 7 songs on one side, you have 2 or 3, or maybe sometimes 1. And so you have to get up and flip the record more because there's 4 sides instead of just 2. And the reason is it takes up more space, with a 45 RPM. If you think about a record that plays at 45 RPM, 45 is faster than 33, so it's going to play that disc a lot faster than it would for 33. Now, there's more space, and you may think, well, what's the point of that? And the point of that is when it's played at a faster repetition, more definition and a wider range is able to be captured in a 45 RPM record more than a 33. When it's played faster, it just has a wider range of sound. There's more bass, there's more highs, there's more lows, all that stuff. And so some people don't think that the difference is really worth it. Some people that have a really nice setup, they do. Some people really like it. I like a 45 RPM record. I don't mind, the biggest complaint that people get is they don't like getting up and flipping it more. I actually don't mind that. I don't mind it when I'm in my record room and I'm sitting and listening. It's such an intentional experience. I don't care that I get up and get down. It doesn't bother me. So some people love it, some people hate it. Let me know in the comments. So that's Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab. They're incredible. Really good stuff. Like I said, there are some years some people don't like a lot of people don't like some of the 80s Beatles ones. And some people think that they're a little flat. I think they sound decent, but I have definitely heard better ones. So one label that I have been obsessed with lately is Analogue Productions. So, this is an Analogue Productions. You'll see they have their own pressing plant, quality record pressing, and that's kind of their logo, Analogue Productions. Now, they have been around since the mid-'80s. They've evolved. They have a fascinating story. I'll just go ahead and say they have a YouTube channel, and they have told the story of the evolution of their business, and it is fascinating. Chad, the guy that runs it, is a really intentional dude. Really, his passion is that people can get really high quality records. He is one of the pioneers that's kept vinyl alive. Truly, he's a good dude. But these are incredible sounding records. Now, this is a 2 LP, 45 RPM, 200 gram. And so a lot of times what they'll do, the 33 RPM, which is just one disc, is like $40. And then for the 2 LP 45 RPM is $60. Now, what I'll say about them that I really like is I like that, with the Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab, love them, but I'm not wild about them putting on every single jacket they got that strip on the top. These are more true to the original jacket. With these, actually, they have such a high quality in everything they do. The quality is impeccable. They have these done at Stoughton Printing. These are the highest quality, I believe the highest quality jacket you can get. Look at that, listen to that. So, really nice, high quality sleeve. Thick and juicy. But I just love that attention to detail. That gets me every time. Really high quality jackets, and then the records, they sound phenomenal. They're mastered extremely well. They use the best material they can, and they have their own pressing plant. So, I mean, everything they do sounds amazing. And like lately, I've been kind of obsessed, and I've spent too much money on their website. But their website's acoustic sounds, and like when things like this are in there, they sell really fast. And then when they go on the aftermarket and people throw them on Discogs, What I mean by that is sometimes if it's a limited edition pressing or something, when the stock runs out on the website, people know that people are desperate for them, so they throw them on Discogs or eBay for a lot higher prices, and people, they freak out because they can't get it and they want it now, so they go and they buy it and they pay way too much. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But that's a lot of times what happens with analog production stuff, because the quality is so good. And I will say, sometimes you'll see these. This is Classic Records, and so very long story short, Classic Records was an incredible audiophile label that was around. They started in the 90s, and they pressed up until 2010. So Analogue Productions bought them out and were able to use all their equipment and all that stuff to basically take over and evolve into quality record pressing and all that stuff. So it's all one business. And Chad, the guy at Analogue Productions, he talks about a lot about how he was involved in doing a lot of distribution and stuff for Classic Records when they first started out. A lot of good information on their YouTube channel. You guys should watch all their videos. But one thing that Analogue Productions is doing is this UHQR box set, and they are amazing, let me tell you. They have a few. The only one I don't have is they have a Jethro Tull one, which I missed out on. I wish I hadn't. I really, really wish I had gotten that. But they have this. This was the first one they did. Jimi Hendrix, Axis Bold as Love. It is incredible. This is the best version of this. I mean, absolutely incredible. That blew my socks off. Okay, when I got that. When I got this, I was blown away. Now I got this with my shop. I ordered a bunch of copies from my distributor. I got a couple. And I kept one for myself, and I've been planning on opening it, and I was like, well, I got the MoFi copy. What, do I really need that one? And a friend of mine was like, dude, yes, you need that one. So this is the MoFi box set of it, and it sounds really good. But let me tell you, these UHQRs, out of this world. And I'll tell you just a little bit about what makes them so special. The way that they do the pressing is very intentional. There's a couple factors here. One is the clarity vinyl. Now I'll just show you real quick. It is absolutely clear vinyl, as you can see. Hold on, I'll show you. That is the color of the vinyl. Totally clear. Well, it's kind of a milky clear. But that's vinyl in its purest form. I don't know if you know this, but they put stuff in it to make it black, So there's all these different particles, and some say that the particles they have some metal in the particles, and it counteracts with your cartridge and stylus. That's probably on a higher level than most of our sound systems have, but that's what they say. So clarity vinyl is very, very quiet, and you might hear people talk about vinyl being quiet. It's really important when you have something like a jazz record or something like that, when it's so soft and so vulnerable that record is dead quiet during those moments. It just makes it gives you chill bumps when it is, And so that's really important with an audiophile record, is the quietness of the vinyl, which is one of the things people really strive for. So one of the things I want to show you is, this is another thing that makes UHQR so incredible, is that this is a regular vinyl record, like if you were to cut it in half. So that is where you drop the needle, and this is the label. And as you can see from there, it kind of goes up. So when your needle is sitting in those grooves, it's basically climbing uphill the whole way. So the needle isn't perfectly in the center. It's kind of leaning to one side as it's going. And so that creates a little bit of groove distortion, so you lose some of that sound quality. With the way they do it, they do a flat profile, to where as soon as you drop the needle here, it is flat all the way across. And I'm telling you, it may sound nerdy, but these records are unreal. They sound so good. Literally, when I put on this kind of blue for the first time, I got goosebumps. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Really high quality stuff. So with the Hendrix, I think they sold, it was limited edition of 5,000. Don't quote me on that. And these they did 25,000. I think they sold out by now. But really great sounding records. I cannot cannot recommend them enough. So I've gone over like different types of vinyl, like the super quiet vinyl, things like that, and we went over 45 RPM and what makes that so special. Now I was going to talk about, like, you see a lot of these are a little bit older CBS half-speed masters. This is one that there is a Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab version of this, but it was in the 90s and it's really rare and expensive. So this is just kind of one that I found that it does sound really good. Now, some people, the half-speed master is how the record was mastered, and so some people actually don't care for half-speed masters and how they're mastered. Some people love them. So the concept behind a half-speed master is, I explained to you earlier, when you have that original source material, that master tape, and you cut that onto a lacquer, okay? That's where the half-speed mastering comes in. So you master that lacquer at half speed. So let me divulge a little bit into that. So basically the lathe is running at half speed. Instead of it being 33 1/3, it's half that speed. It's like 16 and some change. So that is how the lathe is running, half that speed. In addition, the source material is running at half that speed as well. So the concept behind it is, if both are running at half the speed, when you play it at a normal speed, it will be playing at a normal speed. So the concept of that is that more definition is being able to put in to those grooves as it's being mastered as half speed. So you have more definition with the record. Some people think it's a gimmick, some people don't care for it, some people absolutely love it. One thing I'll touch base on really quick, you hear a lot of audiophiles talk about Japanese pressings, which are these. This is a Japanese release of We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll, which is a classic Black Sabbath comp. This is just a cool and random one that I pulled out. I do collect Japanese pressings sometimes. Really the big appeal for me with Japanese pressings is the packaging. You know, they got this obi on the side, which is this kind of sash that they have, basically so they didn't have to put Japanese writing on the cover. They would put all your information on this. That's the point of it. But really good quality jackets, really good attention to detail, really good quality vinyl, very intentional about everything. Sometimes they're not really mastered all that well. But as far as Japanese records are concerned, if you're looking for really good sound quality, I would not necessarily collect Japanese records. Some of them sound really good, a lot of them don't, but they all look really cool. So it depends on what you're looking for. You know what I mean? I collect a Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. I have I think I have all the Led Zeppelin Japanese pressings just because I'm a fanatic. So I want to talk a little bit about the aftermarket for audiophile records. Just got this from Analogue Productions. I think they're still in stock. I'm pretty sure they're still in stock. As the airing of this video, a lot of the doors are still in stock on their website now. But I know that the other night I looked at their website and they were still in stock. And then I was cruising through eBay and I saw one of these. It was a sealed, brand new one, exactly the same as their website. Now these being the 2LP 45 RPM, $60. So bear in mind, $60 still in stock. I was watching one on eBay. I think it went up to like $130, and they're still in stock. They're still, you could get them for $60 on Analogue Productions website, but people maybe don't know that. You know, they haven't seen them, and so it's just kind of, the vinyl market has gotten crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I've been selling records for 12 years now. And you know, from the beginning, there has always been kind of a little bit of a fluctuation in the market, but over the past couple years, as these record plants are trying to catch up with the demand of records, people are very impatient and they will go nuts and pay way too much for a record that might get reissued very soon. Like one, for instance, the Daft Punk Discovery, I know that we're going for $200 a month ago. And now they announced that there's going to be a reissue here very soon, like in the next few weeks, I think. And so you're going to be able to get them for $20 again, you know. And so the fact that people are really paying $200 for these records that they're going to be paying $20 for once they get reissued, you have to be smart about how you spend your money. You don't have to be. You can be the person that's impatient and pays way too much. But if you're on a budget, You can get audiophile records directly from the source at the right price that they're supposed to be at. So I would advise you to go on Analogue Productions website. It's called Acoustic Sounds is their website. Go to Acoustic Sounds and see, like, that's where I would start if I was going to buy audiophile records, because they have the cheapest ones. First of all, their regular 33 RPM records that they put out are $40. Some of them are $35. If you're a jazz nerd, they have these. They did this Acoustic Sound series with Verve, where they did a bunch of John Coltrane stuff. They did Sonny Rollins stuff. They did some Bill Evans stuff, and these are $35, and really great. Everything about them's audiophile. Really great. So you can get them, and a lot of record stores carry these as well. These are easy to get. They made a ton of them. They're easy to get. So if you want to start out with an audiophile record, Analogue Productions, I'm telling you, that's my favorite audiophile label, hands down, right now. They just are doing really great work, and they're really doing the right things for the right reasons. For them, for every business, it's about the money a little bit, but for them, it's really not. For them, they really are trying to put the best quality records out there, and they're doing a fantastic job. So, another one, if you like jazz, the Blue Note series, the classic series that they're doing with these stickers right here, they've got a lot of great titles out right now. That's a great audiophile record to pick up. One I'll show you, this is a label called Music Matters. They don't do a whole lot anymore, but they used to do a lot of, used to be the only ones in the game doing really great Blue Note titles, audiophile. And they have this SRX version, which is a really quiet vinyl version of these, and I think these are going for like $300, $350, something like that. And I think originally they were like $100, And so the market's just kind of all over the place. But if you're smart about it, and you buy the MoFi stuff when it comes out, you pay $50, $60, I don't know how much they cost. Or the Analogue Productions, you buy that stuff as they come out. You can get them for an affordable price, and not to mention in the future they'll go up in value. So it's a win-win, I think, as far as that is concerned. I believe the most important thing that you can do, the best way you can enjoy this music and enjoy audiophile records and get the best bang for your buck, is to really be intentional about how you collect these things. Know your system, know what's going to go well on them, and have fun with it. I will give some resources on good channels to look at if you are wanting to get more information about audiophile recordings. Like I said, I am not an expert with audiophile recordings. I know enough to be dangerous, and that's about it. But I know just kind of how to explain some things, and that's why I did this video. But my favorite audiophile channel probably is Mike from the In-Groove. He has a record store in Phoenix, Arizona. He's incredibly knowledgeable about audiophile records. And he, not only that, he really cares about people and what they spend their money on, and if you're getting a good value for your buck. Very good guy, very good channel, but it's called The In-Groove with, his name's Mike. Analogue Productions, they have their own YouTube channel. That's the label I've been ranting and raving about. What I really like about them is that they're very personable, and they have great stories on their YouTube channel. They have great conversations. I know I just watched an episode where Chad Kassem, the owner and operator, did an interview with Kevin Gray, which is a mastering engineer, one of the best in the biz, and they just kind of talk about the history of him and how he got into it and all that stuff. And you get to see just kind of the behind the scenes of how they make their records and what's coming out and all that stuff. So Analogue Productions, great channel. Michael Fremer, he's a legendary reviewer, talks a lot about audiophile recordings, knows more than I've ever known and will ever know probably about audiophile records. That's a good one. And one that I just recently have been binge watching is 45 RPM audiophile. He is got this unreal system, and his collection is the cleanest I've ever seen. I was watching this collection video today, just drooling over it. But really, really great channel. Love his so much. So those are just kind of a few to get your feet wet if you're looking for a little bit deeper information about audiophile records. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button, hit a like, throw me a comment in the comment section, and follow us on Instagram. That's not too much to ask, I hope. But stay tuned. We're going to be doing a lot more audiophile videos in the future. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.